So we're going to start with a double magic ring. Okay. You're going to do 5 single crochets into that double magic ring. You can do the magic ring as well if you'd like. Double magic ring just makes it a little tighter. So you need to do 5 single crochets. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and start pulling your tail. That'll pull the loop tight, and you're going to grab that loop that starts to pull in. Pull that tight first, that secures that other loop, and then pull your tail, and that'll secure them both inside. Okay, next you're going to go ahead and get your stitch marker. You've finished round 1. Okay, now we're going to do an increase for round 2. We're going to increase in each one of the prior round's stitches. Okay, so in each of these single crochets, you need to now do 2 single crochets. All right, and that's going to give you your increase. So here's 1 and 2 into that same stitch. There's your increase, and do that same thing all the way around, and you should end up with 10 stitches at the end of round 2. Okay, so we finished round 2. You can go ahead and tuck that loose tail to the back now. You're going to make your stitch marker move to the stitch that you just finished here into this loop. That's going to start round 3. Round 3, you do 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch you'll do an increase and do that same pattern all the way around. So the first one you single crochet in, and in the next stitch you increase, which is 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. Okay, so now you've got 3 stitches started. Now do that same pattern, so single crochet and then an increase, and do this all the way around for round 3. All right, so we finished round 3. We're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker. You should now have 15 stitches. We're going to go ahead and do round 4, which is 2 single crochets and then an increase, and that same pattern all the way around. So it's going to be single crochet, then a single crochet in the second one, and then in the third one you'll do an increase. Okay, we'll do another single crochet, and then an increase, and follow that pattern to the end of round 4. Okay, so we finished that round, round 4. You should now have 20 stitches by the end of the round. We're going to do round 5, which is the pattern 3 single crochets and then an increase, and do that same thing all the way around. So let's do that together. All right, so we're going to do 1 single crochet. Now in the next one we'll do another. There's 2 single crochets, and then in the third we'll do another. So there's 3 single crochets. In the 4th stitch you're going to do an increase. Okay, now we do that pattern again. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 3 single crochets, and then an increase. And do that same pattern until you reach the end of round 5. Okay, we finished round 5. You should now have 25 stitches. We're going to go ahead and do rounds 6 through 10. 6 through 10, all you're doing is single crocheting 1 in each of the stitches around. So you're not increasing or decreasing at all. You're just keeping and maintaining those 25 stitches. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch. I will meet you back at the end of round 10. So round 11, we're going to start with 7 single crochets. So let's do those first. Okay, so there's 7 single crochets. The next part of the pattern, we're doing an invisible decrease and then 2 single crochets, and we're doing that 3 times. Okay, so invisible decrease means you just work through the front loops. So you're going to put your loop through the front loop of the first, then through the front loop of the second, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through the last 2 loops. That's an invisible decrease, and it makes it so it's really hard to notice from the front compared to the regular decrease. Okay, so we did our invisible decrease. We're now doing 2 single crochets, and now we're going to do another invisible decrease, again through the front loops only, and 2 single crochets, another invisible decrease. This is the 3rd time, and then 2 single crochets, And to finish off the row, you're just going to continue crocheting 6 single crochets. You should end up with 22 stitches by the end of round 11. Okay, I'm going to move my stitch marker. We're starting round 12. Round 12 again starts with 7 single crochets, so let's do those first. Okay, now we're going to do an invisible decrease and then a single crochet 3 times. So invisible decrease, single crochet, invisible decrease, single crochet, that's 2 times. One more time, invisible decrease, and a single crochet. Okay, that finishes off the 3 times. We're doing 6 single crochets now to finish off this round. And you should end up with 19 stitches. Okay, let's move our stitch marker. We're now going to be starting row 13. For that one, you start again, 7 single crochets. Let's get those in. Okay, now we're doing 3 invisible decreases. 1, 2, and 3. And then again, finishing it off with 6 single crochets. Okay, move your stitch marker. At this point, before the hole gets too tight, you're going to want to go ahead and put in the safety eyes for Whimsy, okay? So grab your 2 6mm safety eyes. Okay, you should have 2 safety eyes and 2 backings, okay? So these eyes are going to go between rounds 7 and 8 of the head. Okay, so in order to count that, you want to flip it to the bottom where you did your first magic ring. You're going to count up from here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This line is the 7th row, the next is the 8th. You want the eyes to go between those 2 rows. Okay, you also want to make sure that your stitch marker is at the back, because the way the pattern is worked, this is meant to be the front and this is meant to be the back, okay? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and play around with the eyes until they look the way that you want them to, and that they're centered with this in the back, okay? Okay, so I like the placement of those eyes. Now we wanna go ahead and get the backings. Okay, you can bring it forward like this if it makes it easier. You're gonna put the safety backing with the flat side down. And then you're gonna wanna pop it in. So that was 1 pop I could feel. 2, 3, 4, all right. So that's as far down as mine are gonna go. You'll feel it click down about 4 times. So there's 1 to hold it. 2, 3, and 4. All right, the eyes are in. Okay, so the next part that you want to do is you want to embroider the cheek marks and the eyebrows using 3 strands of embroidery thread. Okay, so to do that, grab your embroidery thread, get a decent length. Okay, an embroidery thread, it actually has 6 strands of thread in each one. So you just sort of pull them apart until you can see that you've got 3 on either side. And then you're going to gently pull them. Sometimes I use my mouth to hold the bottom so it pulls easier. I'm going to do that right now. That way it doesn't get all tangled. Okay. All right. Here we go. So see, it's a thinner thread. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to embroider the cheek circles. So get a nice knot on the end of your embroidery thread. Thread the other side with your needle. Okay, got your face. Now you want to go in between the fibers of the yarn, so that way your knot will stay in the back, behind on the inside of your work here. Okay, so we're just going to do 3 cheek marks. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's 3 on one side, kind of like whiskers. It almost looks like little whiskers, but they're just your little cheek marks. You're going to try to make sure they're about even from one side to the other, and you're going to do the same on the other side, making sure not to go too tightly because you don't want her face to squish together. Okay. So do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so there's the cheek circle, or cheek marks, excuse me. Now we're going to go ahead and do her eyebrows. So the eyebrows, those are going to go above the eyes, roughly about the 3rd row above the eye. So 1, 2, 3, right in there, okay? So you can either tie this off and start again, or you can just keep using the same thread, which is what I'm going to do. Again, I just won't pull it tight. I won't pull it too tight. Okay, so here's 1 eyebrow. Again, you want to try to make them as even to each other as possible. Otherwise, she'll be making an interesting face. That should be more even, okay. And pull it up. There we go. All right, so she's got her little eyebrows and her cheek marks. So now we'll go ahead and tie this one off. Okay, bring it to the back. You're just going to bring through some of the back fibers. You don't want it to show in the front. Bring it through and just tie it off a couple times. Okay, go ahead and cut that off. All right, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to embroider the mouth and the eyelashes using that full 6 strands. So let's get another length that's got 6 strands. Okay, thread one end into the needle and tie off the other end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and do the eyelashes first, okay? So you want to go under the eye if you can, between the stitch marker back and the front, as close to that eye as you can get it. Again, making sure to go between stitches and not through these holes that are too large and the knot would come through. So you can see that it's tethered, okay? You just want it to come out a little bit like she's got an eyelash there. And we'll come over to the other side, the other eye, and do the same. Okay, so there's one. And there's the other one. Okay, so there's her eyelashes. So now we just need to do her mouth. Okay, so let's come in. We're gonna wanna go probably just to the row just below the eye. Okay, and then make the mouth, make it equal distance between this eye and the thread to this eye and the thread, okay, as close as you can. Okay, and in order to shape the mouth so she doesn't look like she's just got this sort of frown on her face, what I like to do is I like to get the smaller thread. So for this, I would just use 2 to 3 strands of the black embroidery thread. I'm gonna go ahead and get another needle so I don't have to take this one off. You can always use the same one and then just tie it off later too. That works as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab another needle. And what you can do is you're gonna take some tucking stitches that will help to pull the mouth to where you want it to be. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. So just leave the other needle stuck somewhere so it's not going anywhere. Okay, so I'm gonna come up just below the mouth. Again, I'm trying to come up between the fibers to make my knot stay inside, okay? And I can tell that it's tethered, it's not coming out. You're gonna go around that 6-strand thread, all the way around and back into that same place that you're coming out of right now. Okay, and I'm gonna bring it down on the other side too, so it looks like she's smiling. I'm trying to be as even as you can. Okay, so there's one. Now it looks like she's got a smirk. Okay, I'm gonna bring this one, again, going around that 6-strand thread and try to go back into that same space that you're coming out of right now. Okay, now pull it up and through. Okay, and you see she looks like she's smiling now. So what you could do too, you could have one come up in the middle a little bit. If you like that chibi look that you see in a lot of the Japanese animes, where it comes up a little bit in the middle. Or you can keep it down just smiling like she is here. That's totally up to you, whatever style you like. I'm gonna go ahead and just have it come up just a little bit because I do like that chibi style. Okay. And there it goes. There is her face. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and tie off both strands of thread. Okay, make sure they're nice and tight. Tie them off on the inside so that you don't see the knots. That's where our stuffing will be in there later. Okay, that one's done. Let's go ahead and do the 6-strander. Being careful not to go through the front because you don't want this to be shown in the front, okay? All right, so I just tied them both off twice, snip them away, and you can go ahead and put your embroidery thread away. You are done embroidering. Okay, so you've got her face all set. Now we're gonna go ahead and continue crocheting. Okay, so now we're going on to row 14, or round 14. The round 14 goes 2 invisible decreases, 8 single crochets, and 2 invisible decreases. Okay, so go ahead and do 1 invisible decrease. Now do a 2nd invisible decrease. 8 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to finish off round 14 doing 2 more invisible decreases. So there's 1, and there's 2. All right. Move your stitch marker. You should have 12 stitches now. You can see that our hole's getting fairly small. We want to go ahead and stuff the head before it gets too small to be able to stuff. Okay? So I'm gonna go grab my stuffing. I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my stuffing. I'm gonna just pull my hook away here. And you wanna just go ahead and tuck in the stuffing into the head, being careful to stuff around that stitch marker. If you don't, sometimes it'll pull the eye to one side or another. So you wanna try to evenly stuff around each of those eyes. Once your head is stuffed, We're going to go ahead and continue on with round 15. Round 15, we start with 5 single crochets. Okay, so after the 5 single crochets, you're going to increase 2 times. So that's 2 single crochets and 1 stitch, right? So there's 1 increase, and do another one. Okay, and then you're going to finish off with 5 more single crochets. Okay, move your stitch marker. So that's finishing up round 15, and that ends with 14 stitches, okay?
So for round 16, we're going to start off with 1 invisible decrease. So we're going to go in through the front loops only in the first, second, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then pull through the last 2 loops. Next, we're going to do 4 single crochets. So here's 1, and there's the 4th one. Now we're going to go ahead and do 2 increases. So that means you need to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch to do the increase. So there's 1, and here we are doing the second one. There's the second one there. Right, now we're doing 4 single crochets on the other side of the face. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And then we're going to end the round with another invisible decrease. So again, through the front loops only, pick up both front loops, yarn over, pull through first 2, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2.
Okay, so place your stitch marker. We're starting round 17. Start with 2 invisible decreases. So here's 1. And 2. Okay, do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now do 1 increase. 2 more single crochets. And then 2 more invisible decreases, okay? Oops, here we go. 2 more invisible decreases. 1, and there's 2. All right, that's the end of round 17. You should now have 11 stitches going around.
Right, so now we're on round 18. We're going to start off with another invisible decrease. So we're going in through the front loops. Okay, now the rest of the round we're going to be doing 9 single crochets. So I'll meet you at the end of that round.
Go ahead and move your stitch marker. You need to finish stuffing because as you can see, the hole's getting very small now. So grab your stuffing again. And sometimes it's easier if you use your crochet hook to help shove that stuffing in there. We're going to go ahead and finish off round 19 doing 2 invisible decreases. 1, and 2, and then we're going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets. 1, oops, 2, and 2 invisible decreases. All right, I like how that feels. Now we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next. Okay, fasten off, leaving a long tail. You're going to use this tail quite a bit actually. All right, go ahead and pull it through that loop to knot it. Okay. All right, so once you've finished off the round, make sure that it's stuffed to how stuff that you want it. Mine, I could put a little more stuffing in, so I'm gonna do that. You can still stuff it when it gets tight like this, but you definitely are gonna need some sort of a crochet hook or something to poke that stitching in. I'm just gonna fill it up just a little bit more. Now go ahead and find your tapestry needle and thread this yarn through. We'll do the first part of what we're going to use this thread here for. All right, so to close this hole, you're going to weave your tapestry needle through the front loops only of this last round here. We're going to go back in up through the middle. And what you're going to do is we need this pointed head part to actually curve a little bit towards the front so she looks a little more crescent moon shaped. All right, so we need to take some tucking stitches, and we're going to do those around row 14 to 15. She's got the nice crescent moon shaped face, so now you want to go ahead and put your tapestry needle back through the head, and at this point we're going to get it ready for the next part that we need it for. For the chest piece, you're going to need two different yarns. You need your yellow fun fur and you need your gold color. So again, for mine, it was the Mainstays Basic Yarn Gold. You're going to be holding them together and working all the stitches with both strands of yarn. This is going to give her chest that hairy sort of look or furry sort of look. Okay, so go ahead and we're going to do 4 single crochets in a magic ring. For this one, I only do a regular magic ring, not the double, and the reason is because it's really hard to get this fun fur through the 2 loops. So I'm only going to wrap it around the 2 times. I'm going to come underneath here and up and over there, pull through and remove my finger. Okay, do my first slip stitch to connect everything together. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do 4 single crochets in this magic ring. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And make sure you're grabbing both strands of yarn and not just one or the other. So once you've got your 4 single crochets in the magic ring, you're going to pull the loops slowly. Okay, you don't want to pull the fun fur too tight or it will break. So you might need to pull them separately if you need to. All right, go ahead and grab your stitch marker and place your stitch marker. We're going to go ahead and do, for round 2, it's a single crochet and increase pattern. So you're going to do that twice. So go ahead and you might need to, it might take a little getting used to try to grab both those threads there. I know we're not quite used to having to do 2 at once. Right, so let's go ahead and trap this yarn in between, this yarn tail, just a little bit to secure it. So we did 1 single crochet, now we're doing 2 single crochets in the next one, right, for that increase. There's 1, and there's 2. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tuck this yarn tail back. We're going to do another of the same single crochet in one and an increase in the next. And it will get easier as this gets a little bigger. It's a little tight in the beginning when you only have the 4 in a magic ring to start. Okay. All right, now we can go ahead and place our stitch marker for the end of that round, the beginning of the next. I'm going to trim off these ends here. Okay, so for round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase. So there's 1. There's 2. And now we need to do the increase. And you want to make sure you're trying to give it the shape it will help you find the stitches that you're looking for. So here's going to be the increase stitch. It is a little harder to see the stitches when there's the two different layers, including that fun fur. Okay, so there's the increase, and then we'll do another single crochet and another, and then one increase at the end. Okay, at the end of this round you should have 8 stitches. All right, so now take your stitch marker and place it on your next round. So next round is going to be round 4. We're going back to doing single crochet and increase pattern for rounds 4 and 5. And by the end of round 5, you should have 18 stitches total. So I'll do a couple with you and then I'll let you finish those 2 rounds. Okay, so just a single crochet and an increase. Single crochet and an increase. Okay, I'll meet you at the end of round 5. All right, so I've gone ahead and I finished up through round 5. I now have 18 stitches around. Round 6 is just single crocheting in each of the stitches from the prior round. So you should still have 18 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, so for the next round, round 7, we'll do 8 single crochets and then an increase and do that same pattern around. Okay, so it's only going to increase this round about 2 stitches. There's 2, 3, okay, there's 8, and then let's do our increase. And do that same thing again, 8 single crochets and an increase. Okay, so the next round, round 8, we're also going to do just a single crochet around. You should still end up with 20 single crochets at the end of this round. Okay, for round 9, we'll do 3 single crochets and then an invisible decrease and do that same pattern around. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then an invisible decrease. 1, 2, 3, and then another invisible decrease, and just keep going with that. Okay, for round 10, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. So there's 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. And then just keep doing that all the way around. And then at the end of this round, we're going to go ahead and stuff this a little bit. Okay, so at the end of round 10, you should have 12 stitches around. You want to go ahead and get your stuffing. You want to lightly stuff around the middle and leave the top unstuffed. And when I say the top, I mean this part up here. This is where Whimsy's head is going to be sitting, and I'll just bring her over here so you can see. So her head sits on the chest piece like this. That's why you want there to be stuffing in here and then not stuffing in this piece right here, okay? All right, so go ahead and put your crochet hook back in your stitch. And we're gonna continue on to close up this hole. We're going to do it. Round 11 is 1 single crochet and then an invisible decrease, and you repeat that pattern around. So there's a single crochet and there's our invisible decrease. Okay, single crochet and invisible decrease. And continue that into the end of this round. All right, so I've gone ahead and finished that round. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to the next stitch. Okay, leave a tail for closing the hole, but go ahead and cut off the thread. Go through the loop and pull tight. You might need to do them separately. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and close up that hole right there. So get your tapestry needle. Making sure that you thread them both through the eye of the tapestry needle. Okay. All right, and we're going to do the same thing we did for the head. We're going to weave this tail through the beginning front loop only stitches of this prior round, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Just an over and under technique. And I would not pull tight until you've gotten through all of the stitches. That way you can see where the stitches actually are. Okay. Now you can pull tight. Okay. All right, and then you're going to want to go ahead and fasten this off. So if you look, you should notice that one side of your chest is a little flatter than the other. That side's going to go against the body. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my fastening off here in the back. And sometimes it helps if you hold them with one finger as you're pulling them through. Okay, and I just, in order to fasten off, I pick up one of the stitches, but I make sure I go through that entire loop of yarn. Okay, I tie a knot, try to make it as tight as you can without pulling the fun fur strand apart. Okay, and then you can tuck it back in where that stitch is. You should be able to tuck it in to the body without it showing for the most part. If it shows a little bit, it's okay because this is going to be attached to the body. You won't even see it. Okay. All right, go ahead and cut off your yarn and tuck that in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start doing Whimsy's body. So you need to get your neon blue yarn again, and then we're going to go ahead and do our double magic ring to start. And to that, we're going to do 6 single crochets. Okay, now go ahead and start pulling that tail here, and then when you see the first loop pulling in, grab that and pull that tight, and grab the tail and pull that tight, okay? Now we've done our first round. The second round is going to be to increase all the way around. So grab your stitch marker, place your stitch marker. All right, and to that we're going to go ahead and start our increasing. You can lay over the tail and work around it for a few stitches. That way you can secure the tail within those stitches. All right, so let's do our first increase. And just continue increasing until you've reached the end. At the end of that, you should then have 12 stitches in this round, round 2. Okay, now we're done with round 2. Move your stitch marker. Round 3, we're doing a single crochet and increase pattern. So go ahead and do a single crochet in the next, and then an increase in the one after that. And then a single crochet and an increase. And so on until you reach the end of round 3. Okay, now round 4, we're going to go ahead and do single crochet around. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this tail here since we don't need it and it just gets in the way. Let's go ahead and single crochet around. You should end up again with the 18 stitches. Nothing is getting increased or decreased in this round. Okay, meet you back at the end. That ended round 4. Round 5, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets and increase around. So there's 1, 2 single crochets, and now an increase which is the 2 single crochets within 1 stitch, right? And do that pattern again. So 1, 2 single crochets and an increase. I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so at the end of that round, we're going to go ahead and start round 6 and do another single crochet around. Okay, round 7, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase around. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and increase. 1, 2, 3, and increase. And continue on until the end of this round. Okay, so at the end of that round, we're going to go ahead and do round 8, which is single crochet around again. I will meet you at the end of this round. Okay, now it's time for the next round. We're doing round 9. It's going to be 4 single crochets and then an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. Continue this all the way to the end of this round, and I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, round 10, we're going to do single crochet around again. I will meet you back at the end of round 10. Nice and easy. All right, so round 11, we're going to go ahead and do 5 single crochets and then increase around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, and so on. I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so we finished round 11. We're going to do round 12 through 14, and nice and easy, it's just going to be single crocheting all the way around for those 3 rows. Meet you back at the end of those rows. So row 15, we're going to start with 5 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to do an invisible decrease. Again, that's going through the front loops only. You pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2 loops. And repeat that pattern, 5 single crochets and an invisible decrease all the way around this round. Okay, so there's 4, 5, and an invisible decrease. By the end of this round, you'll have 36 stitches. I'll meet you at the end of this round. All right, so I've gone ahead and finished round 15. I'm moving my stitch marker now. Round 16, we're going to be doing single crochet around. Okay, so for the next round, we're going to go ahead and do 4 single crochets and an invisible decrease pattern all the way around. So there's 2, 3, 4, invisible decrease. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, invisible decrease. And go ahead and finish this round. You're also going to finish the next round, round 18, because that's just another single crochet, okay? So single crocheting all the way around. I will meet you at the end of round 18. Okay, we're doing round 19 now. We're doing 3 single crochets and then an invisible decrease all the way around. So that's going to be our pattern. So I've just done the first 3 single crochets, invisible decrease. Here's 1, 2, 3 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. Continue on with those all the way around until we get to the end of round 19 and we'll begin stuffing. All right, so I've gone ahead and finished round 19 and we're gonna go ahead and start stuffing the body while the hole is still big enough to do so. Okay, you wanna stuff it firmly, but not so much that you're stretching out your stitches. You don't wanna see the stuffing in between the stitches. You just wanna make sure that it's stuffed nice and firm. Okay, so that should be good for now. You can always add a little bit more later once the hole is a little smaller. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and begin round 20. We're doing 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease all the way around. We'll do that pattern, okay? So using one finger to hold the stuffing away from the stitches, because otherwise you're gonna be crocheting stuffing through the stitches. You'll do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And then continue on with that pattern. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then an invisible decrease. Okay, I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, round 21, we're gonna be doing 1 single crochet and then an invisible decrease. That'll be the pattern all the way around. So here's the first invisible decrease. I did that single crochet. We'll do another single crochet and an invisible decrease, and just keep on going. Single crochet, invisible decrease, and single crochet, invisible decrease all the way around. And I'll meet you at the end of this round. We'll finish stuffing the body before we close up this hole. Okay, so I finished that round. I'm going to grab a little bit more stuffing and just make sure the front half here is nice and stuffed. I've got a nice firmness to it without stretching the stitching to make sure it's even all the way around. Okay, I think that should be good. All right, so now get your stitch up here with your hook. We're gonna do the last round of the body, and that's round 22. And all we're doing now is we're gonna invisible decrease all the way around. No more single crocheting, we're just closing up this hole. Make sure that stuffing didn't go around the thread there. Okay, here we go. So let's do our invisible decrease. Invisible decrease. You should have a total of 6 stitches at the end of this round, and then we'll close up the hole. All right, we've gone ahead and finished round 22. Go ahead and slip stitch to the next stitch. You're gonna cut off your yarn, pull that tail through the loop and tighten. And now we need to go ahead and weave it again through these stitches so that that hole there is going to close. So get your tapestry needle. Okay, weaving from the outside to the in, inside to the out. And since there's 6 stitches left over here, you're going to do this 3 times. In and out, in and out, in and out. Okay, pull tight. So now that hole has been sewn closed. I usually go through that to another stitch anywhere nearby. It's going to have the chest sewn here, so even if you're not shows, it's not going to show in the end because you'll be covering it. But what you want to do is just pick up a stitch. Make sure you're grabbing that entire line of yarn. Okay, so all of that one strand right there of yarn. Okay, make a loop and tie through. That makes a little knot, and then you want to go in underneath the knot to where the hole in between is, right? Bring it out somewhere else, and then you just pull, and that pulled that knot that was here. That pulled it to the inside so you can't see it at all. And that's how I tie off my yarns when I don't need the end for anything else. Okay? And sometimes you can squish it and that'll tuck that end in, or you can take your hook and just wiggle it wherever that thread is sticking out, and that will pull it into the inside of the piece as well. Okay, so as you can see, it is spider shaped. It's got a pointed end where the spinneret would be, and then this is the other end where we're going to attach Whimsy's chest and her head when we're ready to assemble. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and do the spots that will be up on her back. So you'll need to grab your yellow yarn. Okay, we're going to make 3 large back spots with this yellow. We're going to go ahead and do 5 single crochets in a double magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Start pulling the tail. You see the loop pulling in, so grab that loop and pull it tight until it closes the hole, and then pull the tail tight. Okay, go ahead and grab your stitch marker. Place your stitch marker to start your round, and you can trap the tail in between as well. For round 2, we're going to start off with an increase. Go. So we'll do 2 single crochets in that same stitch. Sometimes the first one nearest the start of the round can be a little tight to get into, but just keep working at it. Okay, so that's an increase. I'm going to go ahead and just tuck my tail so you can see better here. We're going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets. So here's 1, and there's 2, another increase. This is giving it a bit of an oval shape, and another single crochet. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to the next to finish. Cut your yarn. Go ahead and clip this tail off so that you don't get confused which is what. Okay, pull up your loop, stick the tail through and pull tight, and go ahead and leave this tail. We'll be using that to sew this oval shaped large back spot onto the back of Whimsy later on. Okay, you need to make 2 more of the large back spots the same exact way, and then we're going to go ahead and switch over to making the medium back spots. I'll meet you when you're ready for those. Okay, so for the medium back spots, it's really simple. The medium back spots are only 1 round. All you're doing is 5 single crochets in a double magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, pull, grab the one that's coming in, pull that tight, grab the tail and pull that tight. And then all you want to do is slip stitch to your first single crochet right here, and this will make it more circular shaped. Okay, and then go ahead and cut off your yarn. Cut that other tail off so you don't get confused. And pull the tail through the loop. And that is the medium back spot, okay? So we're gonna have 3 large. We need to make 3 more of the mediums. We'll do 2 on either side of the large row of back spots. And then we're gonna do small ones, which are just French knots. So we'll do those when we assemble. Let's make another 3 more of these medium back spots. Okay, so at this point, you're going to want to go ahead and make her little hands. They look like this, and that's going to go at the end of the wire legs. So let's go ahead and make one of these together. You'll need to make a total of 8, 1 for each of her legs. So I'm going to do a double magic ring to start, okay? And we're going to do 4 single crochets into that double magic ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, start pulling that thread. You'll see which one of the loops starts to pull tight. grab that and pull that tight. Now grab your end and pull the last loop tight. Okay, so that's nice and secure. Now go ahead and place your stitch marker. You've only got one more row to go, but it's nice to know where the end is. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just single crochet around. So one single crochet in each of those 4 from the prior round. And I'm just taking this tail and placing it over so I can work the stitch around that tail just to secure it even more. You don't have to do that, but I just like to. So there's 2 stitches, 2 single crochets. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull the tail to the back, okay? And then you need to do another 2 more. It might be a little difficult to see with it being black, so I do apologize if that's the case for you, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. We're just doing a single crochet in each of the prior rounds, single crochets. Yep, we've done our 4, we're back here at the stitch marker. Go ahead and take your stitch marker out. You're gonna go ahead and do a slip stitch into the next, or where that stitch marker was, to fasten, okay? You can trim off the prior tail that we'd been keeping in there. Just get rid of that one. Okay, and then with this loop, start to pull the loop out, but grab that tail, pull it through the loop. Okay, pull it through the loop, and then pull tight. Okay, and that's fastening it off. And now the little hand is ready to sew onto the end of each of the legs. And again, you're gonna wanna make 8 of those little hands. Okay, so that finishes off all the pieces that we're gonna need to use in order to assemble Whimsy. We've got 8 of the little hands, her head, her chest piece, her body. We've got 4 wires that are cut to roughly 16 inches or so. We can trim them down later. I just like to make sure we have enough to make the legs the way that we like them. And then do 3 large spots for her back, and then 4 of the smaller spots for her back, okay? So this video is concluded. We're gonna go ahead and have part 2 coming up next. Part 2 will be assembling all the pieces together. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Thanks, guys.